there are 300 people living behind Gurdwara Majnu Ka Tila, and they are all from Pakistan, and you can very well understand how safe are minorities there. तो minorities का पाकिस्तान में इतना बुरा हाल है कि आज बताओ, वरना otherwise I must tell you one thing, and you will also appreciate that. दुनिया में अगर ये कहीं भी ऐसा केस हुआ होता, चाहे अमेरिका होता, कनाडा होता, तो दुनिया में वहाँ के सिख पूरे सड़कों पे उतर आते, पर पाकिस्तान के हमारे भाई भी मजबूर हैं, हम उनकी दर्द को समझ सकते हैं। उन बेचारों को ये भी अलाउड नहीं है कि वो अपने धर्म की रक्षा के लिए कोई एक बात भी बोल पाएँ, एक स्टेटमेंट भी दे पाएँ, ये भी वहाँ पे अलाउड नहीं है, ऐसा सेंसर लगा हुआ वहाँ पे। तो मिनॉरिटीज़ की आप बात ही मत करें, वहाँ तो शरेआम ही कह देते हैं कि हम मिनॉरिटीज़ को यहाँ नहीं रहने देंगे, आपको निकाल कर छोड़ेंगे।
जी, और वहाँ पर तो आपने जैसे कहा कि even the Gurdwaras come under the Waqf board. Mr. Manjinder Singh Sirsa, thank you for joining us this evening with your thoughts. You've raised the issue with the MEA. We'd see if the MEA formally lodges a complaint. The person who raised this alarm, who made the video, has been arrested. Not those who have actually disrespected Gurdwara Panja Sahib and the premises by entering there with the footwear and also sitting there and shooting for a movie without even taking the proper permissions. With that, we call it a wrap on this edition of The Nation at 5. Viewpoint with Zaka up next. Stay with us.
Good evening, this is Viewpoint. I'm Zaka Jacob. A delegation of Kashmiri pundits has spoken for the very first time at the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva. They have completely exposed how Pakistan, with the help of both local as well as foreign terrorists, has carried out mass killings. It led to the exodus of Kashmiri pundits back in the 1990s. But the fact is that even today, pundits are facing a security threat in Kashmir, as was evidenced in the killing of Rahul Bhatt, Rajni Bala and Makhanlal Bindru. The question is, the UNHRC itself may be a biased institution, certainly under its previous head, Michelle Bachelet, the former Chilean president. There were repeated reports that the UNHRC had put out questioning what is happening on the ground in Kashmir. The Indian government, both through the MEA as well as its representatives at the UNHRC, have given a firm response to that. The question right now is this. Now that the pundits have spoken at the United Nations Human Rights Council, what face will Pakistan now have to say that what's happening in Kashmir is indigenously developed, it's a local problem, and that it has nothing to do with the export of terror from across the border? All right, before we go across to our panelists, I just want to bring you up to speed with some figures as to how Naya Kashmir, particularly after 5th of August 2019, has been rattling Pakistan. The terror export track record of Pakistan so far. Just in the last 1 year, up until May 2022, which is when we have data available, there were 62 terror attacks in Jammu and Kashmir until May 2022. This was submitted by the Union Home Ministry in a written reply in Parliament. 80 Pakistan-backed terrorists were killed just in the calendar year of 2022. This is until May. 128 security personnel were killed between August 2019 and June 2022. That's the period of course, right after the scrapping, the abrogation of Article 370. And in that same period, 118 civilians were also killed in attacks between August 2019 and June of 2022. So the question that's being asked is, for the very first time, Kashmiri pundits, who are a victimized group who were chased out of the Kashmir Valley, and also who even today are facing threats from terrorists, both within Kashmir and the exported variety that are exported from across the border, they have made their case before the highest human rights body of the United Nations. Let me go across to Lalit Ambardar. He's a Kashmiri activist. Sushant Sareen, senior fellow at the ORF. Arti Tuku is founder and editor-in-chief of The New Indian. She'll be joining us in a moment. And Ambassador Anil Trigunyat, former diplomat, also on the broadcast. Sushant, let me start with you first. The UNHRC itself is seemingly a biased organization, no doubt about it. In fact, under its previous chief, Michelle Bachelet, there were repeated reports that were brought out under her stewardship questioning what is happening in Kashmir. India, in fact, had responded to that, saying that the reports that have come out are fallacious, tendentious, and motivated, and that individual countries are trying to influence, and individuals are trying to influence the role of the UNHRC. Will the fact that Kashmiri pundits today spoke and exposed Pakistan and its nefarious activities have any ramifications beyond the four walls of the UNHRC?
Zaka, I don't know what ramifications it will have if the conscience of the world was not shaken when over 500,000 Kashmiri pundits were forcibly evicted from the Kashmir Valley by the terrorists out there. Then I don't know whether the testimonies of the victims in the halls of Geneva will actually shake the conscience of these countries. Number two, please look at some of the countries which are members of the UNHRC. China, right? You have countries like Iran. You have countries like Pakistan. I could name an entire rogues gallery of countries which are members of the UNHRC. So to expect that these guys are going to actually, their conscience is going to be shaken, and that UNHRC is actually in the business of protecting human rights of people in various parts of the world, well, that's a figment of imagination of, whoever thinks that.
Okay.
Number three, I think what is important, even though I don't think much is going to come out of it, but I think it is very important that until now, for almost 40 years, there has been this kind of toing and froing at the Geneva UNHRC. But I think this is among the first time, not only in Geneva, but even in the UN, in New York, you had a victim of terrorism, Mr. Karambir Kang, who lost his entire family in the 26/11 attacks. He spoke out there. And it is very good that, we show to the world the victims of terrorism rather than, these human rights entrepreneurs who are going out there and, trying to get funding and doing all kinds of shady activity. I think it is very important to at least put on record the testimony of the victims of terror. So to that extent, I think this is a very useful exercise, and it needs to be done much more. Not just last point, Zaka, not just of the Kashmiri pundits. And I think we need to be extremely careful on this, because in Kashmir, it is not just the Kashmiri pundits. They've, of course, faced the brunt of it. But the Kashmiri Muslims have also, their human rights have also been violated by these terrorists. They have also been butchered in Kashmir. And I think it is very important that their stories also be put out there.
All right. When the last report came out about the situation in Kashmir, this was in July of 2019, just a few months after, just ahead of the scrapping of Article 370. This is how the MEA had responded to it. This undermines the credibility of a UN institution. The MEA called the report overtly prejudiced. It seeks to build a false narrative. The report violates India's sovereignty and territorial integrity. In fact, the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of India. Pakistan is an illegal and forcible occupation of a part of the Indian state through aggression. This is the MEA's official response. Let me ask Ambassador Trigunyat, as a former diplomat, various actors, various individuals use the platforms of the UNHRC for their own, limited and vested political interests, including organizations like the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Countries. What relevance will today's statements by the Kashmiri Pandit community at the UNHRC exposing Pakistan's double speak, what relevance will it have when members of the UNHRC include those whose human rights record are dubious, whether it's China, Iran, Pakistan, etc.?
Well, Zaka, that is absolutely a truth that as far as certain states are concerned. And the fact that a country like Pakistan, whose foreign policy is essentially based on cross-border terrorism against India, especially in Kashmir, and that has been going on for 4 decades at least. Every time, unfortunately, the reports that have been coming out have been for some kind of a violations of human rights by the forces. but nobody ever spoke of the kind of carnage, the kind of dislocation that happened, and irrespective of the community. Of course, the pundits, Kashmiri pundits, have a lot to talk about and a lot of problems that they have suffered over the years, but that nobody cares about it. There are reports and reports, and the whole world knows that Pakistan is a haven of terrorism, haven of terrorists. As late as just last 2 weeks ago, when China put put its technical hold against another big terrorist, so they have
Correct.
been also. So I think there is concerned, but at the same time, as Shan said, it is important for these people to go and speak at least that there is other side of the story. Terrorism itself is a violation of the human rights and is not justifiable under any means. And that's what India says, that the reports that have come out are essentially made and targeted the Indian state rather than the root cause of the problem from the other side of the border.
Let me ask Aarti Tikku, it was not just the fact that there were 300,000 Kashmiri pundits who were forced to flee back in the 1990s, but there are 70,000 of them who are officially registered as migrants in various parts of India who are hoping to go back to their homeland. But what about the situation today? Over the last 1 year or so, we have seen whether it is a Rahul Bhatt or a Rajni Bala or a Makhanlal Bindru, how safe are the Kashmiri pundits, even the ones who are going back to the valley over the last year, year and a half or so? Because there is a feeling in the pundit community, and I'll ask Lalit also this in a moment, that they are somehow, quote-unquote, sitting ducks for these terrorists who are still operational, both in Kashmir and from across the border.
Well, Zaka, to begin with, we must acknowledge the fact that the situation that Kashmir saw in 1890, we have come far from that situation in the last 32 years. I do not think that it's the same kind of chaotic, unstable Kashmir that we experienced 32 years ago. Having said that, I do also acknowledge that a certain amount of conflict entrepreneurship, a certain section which indulged in the conflict entrepreneurship in the last 32 years, it is still active there. It has not been dismantled. The government has done tremendous work in the last few years, starting with the banning of Jamaat-e-Islami Kashmir and banning of Jammu and Kashmir Liberation Front. Also, cracking down on the terror funding in the last few years. And then, of course, the landmark decision that the government took in 2019 on August 5th by revoking Article 370 and nullifying 35A as well. I think all these measures have made a lot of difference. But at the same time, if you do not clean the entire slate on which Islamic terrorism was founded, or in fact was allowed to function for the last 3 decades, unless and until you dismantle that completely, clean it up, we will see targeted killings of Kashmiri Hindus in Kashmir. That's what we've been seeing in the last few years.
Okay.
But I am not pessimistic. I do not think that the road for the return of Kashmiri pundits and rehabilitation of Kashmiri pundits in Kashmir has ended. I think that road is open, and it will open up more as the government pursues and is persistent in its efforts to dismantle the terror network, which is not only prevalent in Kashmir. Some of the people who were beneficiaries of that conflict entrepreneurship and this Islamic radicalism and terrorism are also sitting in Delhi and other parts of the country.
Okay, I want to ask Lalit Ambardar that, what Aarti is saying is absolutely right. It's not going to be easy to dismantle this conflict entrepreneurship and people who have thrived from it over the last 30 odd years in the Kashmir Valley. Yes, Article 370 is gone. That is a significant step, no doubt about it. The data shows that the number of terrorist attacks has come down, both in terms of cross-border terror as well as indigenous terror that is happening in Kashmir. But the fact is, Lalit, and I want to ask you this as a Kashmiri Pandit, today, do you feel safe to go back to Kashmir? Does your family feel safe to go back to Kashmir? And please bring us up to speed with what Sushant and Ambassador Trigoni had said that, well, yes, the UNHRC may be a biased organization, but at least you've got the pundit view out there from the highest human rights body in the world.
Zaka, let me first convey to you, it's not for the first time Kashmiri pundits have spoken at UNHRC Geneva. In 1992-93, our people have been part of the delegation on behalf of Indian group, who have been there. Panun Kashmir's leader, Dr. Ajay Surangu, made a special presentation there in Geneva. The question is, yes, at that time, there was a risk of putting some sanction against India. And let me also remind that Iran came to rescue. Narasimha Rao was the prime minister, and Mr. Dinesh Singh was our foreign minister. He was sick, very seriously ill in All India Institute of Medical Sciences. He was taken out right at night on a stretcher, put onto a air ambulance, taken to Iran. There he spoke to his counterparts and returned back with an optimistic response from the Iranians, and the situation was saved in Geneva. But the point is, do we realize, do we acknowledge what we have on hand in Kashmir? Look, Kashmir Jihad is a military problem. We have not been formally saying that what India has on hand in Kashmir is Kashmir Jihad, is a pan-Islamism inspired, terror-infested, expansionist Kashmir Jihad. And then they have been trying all these 32 years to expand, to spread their tentacles in Jammu region. But Jammu people, Dogras, have resisted. They were able to resist it because of the demographic situation there. But in Kashmir, Kashmiri Hindus suffered genocide. And yes, I repeat on your channel, I said it earlier, even the present government has not yet acknowledged what Kashmiri Hindus have suffered was genocide. And you know what the tools of genocide were? Rape, murder, and mass murder. And yet there is no acknowledgement on behalf of the government. How do you expect the world to respond? You can't use Kashmiri pundits to save a situation in Geneva in front of the international community, while as on your own, your BJPs, the current establishment's representative on your channel told me, Lalit, you must move on. If this is how you're going to treat the victims of genocide internally on behalf of the government of India, then you can imagine what would be the response globally. Okay. I don't think it does make any difference. Now we are in a better situation. We are not facing any sanctions. I think it's a ritualistic. Unless and until government of India does it on its own, realizes that they have to acknowledge what Kashmiri Hindus have suffered. Can you imagine not one rapist, murderer, or mass murderer has ever been charged in Kashmir, ever been tried? This Bita Karate, Farooq Ahmed Dad's trial was announced with pomp and show. Here is a self-acclaimed butcher of Kashmiri Hindus. Yeah. He is being tried in Kashmir. Of course, not for Kashmiri Hindus genocide, for terror fund. Even then, yes, there was one case that was against him. The trial began. One hearing was held. Subsequently, two subsequent hearings were abandoned, were aborted, because the local administration failed to provide security to the counsel of the victim's family. He had to return back from the Srinagar airport, and since then it's quiet. So what we have to understand, see, genocide has an aspect to it, very important aspect to it. If you do not acknowledge it, if you do not check it, it has a tendency to replicate itself.
All right, let me go back to Sushant Sareen as well. You know, one of the problems, Sushant, is that there is this collection of countries, the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Countries, in September 2021. They had raised the Kashmir issue at the United Nations Human Rights Council. India had exercised its right of response and said that basically the 57-nation bloc is helplessly allowing itself to be held hostage by Islamabad. In fact, India mounted a blistering attack on Pakistan, saying that a globally recognized country that openly supports, trains, finances and arms terrorists, including UN-prescribed ones as a matter of state policy, should not be giving lessons to India. India does not need lessons from a failed state. The question simply is this, that when Pakistan knocks on the doors of the UNHRC, it has countries like Saudi Arabia, the GCC countries, or Iran, Turkey, etc. coming to its aid. When India presents how it is a victim of terror, not even our most steadfast allies back us.
But Zaka, I think you need to put a bit of nuance in it. I don't think the Saudis, at least in the last 8-10 years, Maybe in the early 90s, they were backing these guys quite a lot. But I don't think the UAE or the Saudis or most of the Islamic bloc, apart from, somebody like a Turkey or maybe a Malaysia, so one of these kind of guys, but most of the Islamic bloc, they kind of balance between India and Pakistan in the sense that they will say, okay, fine, OIC is a useless organization anyways, nobody bothers about it. So let some resolution come in, how does it matter? Otherwise, we have excellent relations with India. So they try and balance it like that. The other side of it is, Zaka, we have never really tried to take a case against Pakistan and pin it down. Whether it's on Balochistan, whether it's on terrorism in Kashmir, whether it's on 50 other things, egregious violations of human rights, which the Pakistanis do on a daily basis. The minorities, the treatment of minorities in Pakistan, we issue pro forma statements, but nothing beyond that. And, about those UN reports on Kashmir, which you're talking about. Number one, before this scandalous woman from Chile, who was a complete disaster because she never opened her mouth against the Chinese even once, despite the fact that the UN had come out with reports on the Chinese treatment of Muslims. But she was extremely biased against India. I don't know for what reason, but even her predecessor, this Jordanian clown prince or some kind of a prince from there, that report, what it was based on, it was based on newspaper clippings. And where were those newspapers coming from? Most of those clippings were from Pakistan or from the separatist press inside Kashmir. So on that basis, these guys built up this report and they presented it. They mentioned it in the report that, we had to do this, but we had to come out with this report. Now, that is the kind of way the UNHRC has been functioning. And I think what India needs to do is launch a massive counter-offensive to pin down countries like Pakistan on their human rights record.
No, I think your point is well taken, Sushant. The problem is, and I'll let Ambassador Triguniat explain. This is the double standards on global fora like the UNHRC. Suddenly, if India were to question Pakistan's record vis-a-vis its minorities, what it's doing in Balochistan, what it's doing, of course, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, or even if it were to raise very well documented Chinese treatment of the Uyghurs in Xinjiang, suddenly that becomes an internal problem of those countries. And, the basic understanding in international diplomacy is you don't interfere in the internal affairs of another country. But somehow those countries, when they raise Kashmir, that's not viewed from the internal affairs of India sort of a prism. That's a basic double standard.
Of course, there are these double standards which are driven by their economic imperatives. I mean, the countries, 57 countries which are there in the OIC, have consistently criticized India, and at one time we had taken decision not to bother about them because that's an irrelevant organization to that extent. But at the same time, this is true, India has always castigated those statements, but I can tell you that every time we spoke to every member of the OIC, they always used to bilaterally tell us that that's just because of Pakistan it goes through, don't worry about it, don't bother about it, we are not concerned. And as Sushant said, obviously, I mean, in the recent past, we have seen a tremendous change. And I remember when we went to Saudi Arabia in 2010 and Riyadh Declaration, for the first time, it spoke of fight against terrorism. So there is a sea change in their appreciation, in their approach. They did not discuss in Article 370 or denigrated most of these countries in the Gulf. They understand that Pakistan is in the wrong, and they have been trying to push Pakistan also to do something about it. But that is the policy of Pakistan. As far as Uyghurs are concerned, their relationship with China, and it is part of the larger geopolitics, actually, more than the geo-religious contestation that we are looking at. So I think that this is a major problem that these countries face. They need to put the house in order. As far as international organizations are concerned, India has consistently raised it all the time and tried to expose and isolate Pakistan as a perpetrator of terror and a country who...
I'll get Aarti on the final word. What does it make you feel, Aarti? Just a few weeks back, I'm told that the Supreme Court was apprised of a petition which some Kashmiri Pundit groups had filed, seeking some kind of direction to the government or some kind of inquiry to find out if indeed there was a genocide, and the court was not prepared to listen to it. Now, for whatever reason best known to the court said approach to the government. The government too we've not had, like let's say South Africa has had, a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. as Lalit said a moment ago, the first thing to do is to acknowledge that there was ethnic cleansing, is to acknowledge that there was mass exodus. And unless you have that as a first step, you know, it doesn't matter how far you move the needle. Aarti. All right, we lost that link with Aarti. I'll give the final word to Lalit in a minute, Lalit.
Zaka, one thing, the statistics that have been quoted, that we have been able to contain violence in Kashmir. I think we need to understand Kashmir Jihad over the years has evolved into a hybrid war. They are not. We have an internal security grid, no doubt, is very, very tight, and to breach is very difficult. But whenever they would do it, they would cause the same harm and to generate the same kind of fear psychosis that they are doing. So individual killings, targeting killings is the same thing as they would achieve by killing 10 people, 20 people in a mass, say 25 years ago. So hybrid war has to be tackled. Don't confuse it that you have achieved a strategic dominance over Kashmiri Jihad. It remains a problem even today. Bank manager has been shot at. Thank God he survived. Kashmiri Hindus remain on target list. There are thousands. They are Kashmiri Hindus. They are protesting in Jammu. They just want right to life and dignity. Please transfer us. We know that Kashmir Jihad is a problem. It is thriving. It's alive. But the problem is the local Bharatiya Janata Party and the Parivar. They are so obsessed with the elections. I think they're misinforming Narendra Modi, and it goes the very spirit of Narendra Modi's that iconic historical decision of 5th of August 2019. It's a jihad. It will take time to dismember, to dislodge the Islamo-fascist ecosystem that was prevailing in Kashmir for the past 7 years.
I'm out of time. I want to thank Lalit. I want to thank Sushant Sareen, Ambassador Trigoniyat, and of course Aarti Tikku for joining us. We're getting some breaking news here on the Delhi political drama that's been going on between the Aam Aadmi Party and the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi. Now, after the LG's letter, the Aam Aadmi Party has responded by saying that Arvind Kejriwal was in Gujarat over the weekend, which is why he was not able to attend this program that the LG had listed over the last couple of days or so. The AAP has also alleged that the LG wrote to Kejriwal on the Prime Minister's instructions. As Kejriwal addressed a massive rally and empty chairs were noticed at PM Modi's rally in Ahmedabad. That's what the Aam Aadmi Party has said. Anshul now joins us with more details. Anshul, what exactly has the AAP said specifically to the allegations from the LG's office?
So yes, the Aam Aadmi Party has come to the fore and responded to these allegations that were put out by the Lieutenant Governor, in which he said that the right protocols were not followed when the CM Arvind Kejriwal was not present at the Samadhi of Lal Bahadur Shastri and Mahatma Gandhi on their birth anniversary. To this, Manish Sisodia has now responded to this letter and has come out and said that since CM Arvind Kejriwal was not present in Delhi, in fact he was in Gujarat addressing a massive rally in a tribal area in Gujarat, he was not able to be present at the venue. And over the past many years, both CM Arvind Kejriwal and Manish Sisodia have been going on Gandhi Jayanti to the Samadhis of Mahatma Gandhi and also at Lal Bahadur Shastri Samadhi. So yes, this political war of words continues, and Manish Sisodia has also put out these allegations that all this has been done on the behest of the Prime Minister, since the Prime Minister was not able to gain the traction amongst the crowds in Gujarat. There were empty chairs in his rally, and that is the reason why the Lieutenant Governor is trying to derail the momentum that the Aam Aadmi Party has got in Gujarat.
Okay, Anshul, we'll leave it at that. We'll see how this story politically plays out. As the Gujarat elections approach, of course, it's going to be political between the AAP and the BJP. Meanwhile, as we wrap up Viewpoint, the Russian invasion of Ukraine is now entering its 8th month. An opera house in Kharkiv, which was recently retaken by the Ukrainian forces, it was badly hit and destroyed by a missile. It's now been converted into a memorial. My colleague Sanjay Suri is the only Indian journalist on the ground in Ukraine right now. This is the report he filed.
This behind us is the opera house that was hit by a missile. And in the middle of all this destruction in Kharkiv, all the bombing, the flowers are blooming. Or should we say, they've been made to bloom. They have been looked after. They've been tended to every day clearly. At any time, the sirens may go off, bombs may come down, but gardeners here have been out looking after their plants and their flowers. This here behind is a memorial to those who've died fighting and to those still fighting for Ukraine, fighting bloody battles and very difficult battles, and beneath that memorial, all around it, the sandbags and the flowers between them say just about everything that needs to be said about Kharkiv today. This has become the iconic memorial around Ukraine today, a high pile of sandbags within a black shroud. It is a picture of soldiers fighting and dying. It is the emblem of Ukraine itself. Consider the human or inhuman environment in which these flowers grow. In Kharkiv and all around Ukraine really, it's the season of war, not flowers. The UN has counted 5,996 civilian deaths till September the 25th, with 8,848 injured, but with an indication that the number of dead and injured could be much higher. The worst by far has been in Kharkiv, where these flowers are blooming. Not many people walk by these flowers anymore or stop to look at them. Most people who lived around them have left. No tourist steps by to set eyes on them. But quite obviously, a lot of Kharkiv's gardeners have not left, and they are no more immune to missiles than anyone else.
Good evening, hello and welcome to this special broadcast. I'm Anusha Sori. Home Minister Amit Shah is all set to embark on his third visit, which will be a 3-day visit to the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Well, on the agenda are a slew of development projects and crucial rallies lined up in areas like Rajouri and Baramulla. This will be the first such rally in the terror-hit region of, for example, Baramulla, post the abrogation of Article 370. Now, the visit of the Home Minister is important as it asserts multiple things. First of all, India's position that Kashmir is an integral part of India, and the government of India continues to maintain and make sustained efforts to restore political normalcy in the valley and also a firm crackdown on terror. The visit, not to forget, also happens at a time when our neighbor country Pakistan continues to pursue a policy of asymmetric warfare, pushing terror in the valley and, more importantly, trying to internationalize the issue. For the next 30 minutes, we shall highlight the key issues of Jammu and Kashmir that the Home Minister is expected to address through this visit, and how the larger process of redefining the political narrative is intrinsic to the restoration of statehood in Jammu and Kashmir. All that and much more lined up in the next 30 minutes.
Pakistan and its agencies have been ensuring that the valley remains not in peace but in disturbance.
हमारे एक पड़ोसी हैं जो माने एक किस्म से जैसे हम आईटी के एक्सपर्ट हैं, इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी के, वो इंटरनेशनल टेररिस्ट के एक्सपर्ट हैं।
Well, let's also talk about what are the key factors that the Home Minister is going to address. If one were to look at this visit of the Home Minister very, very closely, there are strong messages. First, the security factor. Of course, it happens in the backdrop of multiple attempts by the terrorists and the attempts that they have made to sabotage peace and development in the valley. Of course, when the Home Minister visits an area like Baramulla, the clear message from the government of India is that they're not going to back down. And the review of the crackdown under UAPA, there are various underground workers on whom the government of India had taken action, and also the Pak infiltration push ahead of the winters. That's going to be a key concern for the government of India. Pakistan Pakistan repeatedly on multiple occasions, there's ample evidence before the agencies to prove that they've been trying to push terror in the valley. And this is an issue that is also going to find its resonance on an international stage. There are victims of terror from different communities who are likely to speak at the UNHRC. Pakistan at the same forum has demanded rights, and they have said that this is an issue that one should really look at. This is a strong and a stern message coming from India. Not to forget, the External Affairs Minister also echoed the same thing. He said the narrative should not be used in a wrong way. We should have the narrative for the people who are affected by this violence and terrorism, and it includes people from all communities. Let's talk about the political normalcy as well, returning to the valley. Now, it's a stated position of the government of India that at some point in time, the statehood would be restored. The factors responsible for it need to be created in order to make sure that the terror in the valley is under control. Outreach to various communities, Gujars, Bakarwals, more importantly, Pahadis may be recognized under the STs. There are also Yuva Rajput Sabha, which is ahead of the publication of the electoral rolls. All these communities are very, very critical when it comes to the entire outreach of the government of India. Let's talk about the development push, which is intrinsic to the development of any region. More importantly, Jammu and Kashmir. We have seen how tourism has taken a big boost in the region. There's data and evidence to show that in the last 2 years, the tourism sector has hugely benefited in the Valley of Kashmir. The foundation stone for development works in Jammu, the launch of flyover and corridors on the Jammu-Rajouri-Poonch highway. All of those are very, very important development projects that we are going to talk about. And of course, economic development forms the heart and soul of any kind of political stability or change that one may be really looking at. So those are the 4 broad factors that we are talking about, different factors on which the visit of the Home Minister is going to be very important. Joining us on the broadcast is also my colleague Tejinder Singh Sodhi, who's getting us more perspective on this entire visit. Tejinder, 3 days that the Home Minister is going to be in the Union Territory. What are the key aspects to watch out for, and what is the message that he's taking to the valley? And also briefly, I'd also like you to talk about what kind of response is coming in from the parties like a PDP or an NC ahead of the visit of the Home Minister.
Yes, Anusha, you see, this is for the first time that the Union Home Minister would be in Jammu and Kashmir for 3 long days.
Yeah.
And he would, as you rightly pointed out in your introduction, that he would be addressing 2 mega rallies, and that too, one in Rajouri, which is next to the line of control. The district is the border district next to the line of control, and the other one in the once known as the terror hotbed of Baramulla district. So these 2 rallies are very crucial. One, the one which will be held in Rajouri, it will address the aspirations and demands of the people of Jammu region, whereas the one that would be held in Baramulla, it would address the aspirations of the people in Kashmir, and also it would also give a strong message to our neighbor, to our adversary, and also to the global community that Jammu and Kashmir continues to be an integral part of the country. And after the abrogation of Article 370, those discriminatory articles like Article 370, 35A, the people in Kashmir Valley, they have already joined mainstream. We saw today several senior leaders, even a former deputy chief minister who is the founding members of People's Democratic Party, though he has now parted ways from the People's Democratic Party. At one point in time, after the death of Mufti Muhammad Saeed, he was named as the patron of PDP. So he has appealed the people in Baramulla to make the upcoming rally of Home Minister Amit Shah grand success. He has asked people to participate in large number to make the rally a grand success. So this shows the changing political landscape in Jammu, in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, wherein the people and those leaders who were once the part of the political parties, the Kashmir-based political parties, especially like of that PDP, they are now appealing the people from their constituency to join hands and to make sure that the rally of Union Home Minister becomes a grand success. Union Home Minister, we are told that he's en route to Jammu on a special plane right now. He will be landing in Jammu in next half an hour or so. After that, he would be heading to Raj Bhavan, wherein he would be meeting various delegations. Yes, Anusha.
Tejinder, there's one more aspect I want to talk about. There's this entire talk about the reach of the present government, the union government, and the BJP to various communities, Bakarwals, Pahadis, various factions within Jammu. Jammu as a region, and there are various groups that have highlighted that historically they've been neglected because of the priorities of Kashmir. Is the Home Minister likely to talk to those sections of people as well?
Indeed, Anusha, you see, this was rather, as you said, that there were several sections of the society that were marginalized. They never got any representation. Just a couple of days ago, the first Gujjar from member of the Gujjar community, Ghulam Ali Khatana, he was nominated for the membership of Rajya Sabha. So now we are told that even the Union Home Minister, when he will be addressing the people in Rajouri, he is going to announce the ST status for the Pahadi speaking people in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. So there are many things which are on card during the visit of the Union Home Minister. But as we were mentioning about those marginalized communities, some of them have already got their dues after the abrogation of Article 370, like the West Pakistan refugees, the refugees from POK. But there is a lot that needs to be done, and we are hopeful that the Union Home Minister would address those demands when he addresses the people in Rajouri as well as in Baramulla. Yes.
Thank you, Tejinder, for joining us on the broadcast and giving us that overall analysis and perspective. I open this question to our guest as well. Home Minister is in Jammu and Kashmir, and of course, it's the countdown to that crucial visit. The desperation of Pakistan is clearly showing, and this is an attempt to restore greater degree of normalcy in the valley. And to what extent can the government of India address various concerns? And of course, we'll also talk about the Pakistan's desperation against the normalcy which India continues to make, the efforts, the sustained efforts of the government of India. Joining us on the broadcast is Neeti Jain. She is the spokesperson of BJP. Mr. Sushant Sareen, who is the senior fellow at ORF, also an expert on strategic affairs, is also joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Majid Haidari, who is a senior journalist, is also with us on the show. And Ankush Sharma, who is the president of Ekjut, a Jammu party, is also joining us on the broadcast. Neeti, I come to you first. The visit happens at a time where there is increased cacophony from our neighboring country, Pakistan. Once again, they're trying to internationalize this entire issue, and External Affairs also rightly said that our neighboring country is also a country which sends international terror across the world. But talking about the Union of India and their political agenda to have at some point, in history or in the next few years, elections in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, and at some point have the statehood back. Talking in that regard, what are the various concerns that the Home Minister is expected to address, and what is the larger message he is taking to the people of Jammu and Kashmir?
Okay, let me first begin by correcting your correspondent Tejinder. This is not the first time that Amit Shah ji is going to be in Jammu and Kashmir for 3 days. He was there last year, October as well. And that was a 3-day visit, and he stayed at Pulwama overnight, and he addressed all of those issues.
I think, Neeti, what he was talking about is in the larger context of Baramulla, like the first time there is a rally happening in Baramulla.
Yes.
And
Baramulla,
this is one area where,
last time it was Pulwama. But the point that I'm trying to make is that Amit Shah ji, for him, Kashmir and Jammu Kashmir has been a very sensitive topic. And he said that not only outside of the parliament, but also inside the parliament, when he said that he gets angry every time Kashmir comes up. So we can understand that sentiment from everything that he has said. That said, even in Delhi, he has held a lot of security review meetings and all of those things. So yes, Pakistan infused terror can be done just to gain some kind of attraction, a desperate attempt by them to time it in such a manner, which was a few days back. So in all of those contexts, the second thing that you asked me about were the elections. That is, the EC apparently is going to come out with an election roll in November. I think November 25th is when they come out. So the elections are mainly going to be dependent on election commission. But yes, the government has said that they want at some point in time the elections to happen and the political stability to come in. But before that political stability to come in, I think it is important that that all of this aspect, the security aspect and the infrastructure and everything that the government is doing right now needs to be stabilized a lot more before the political stability can be brought in that area.
Are there clear markers that the Union of India has when it comes to the term political stability? Because that's going to be a relative term in the context of Jammu and Kashmir, Neeti.
So, like I said, that before we talk about political stability, let us talk about the infrastructure development that has happened. During this visit as well, Amit Shah ji is inaugurating a cancer hospital. He is meeting all of these people that you said have been neglected in the past years because of the political instability in the state. So, let all of those things come to a balanced ground. And that is when we go to the political stability and the markers that would define that stability.
Okay.
So I think we're a long way from where we were to where we want to be, but I think we're on that continuum and we're moving forward on that continuum on great speed.
All right, Ankur, I want you to come into the discussion, and I've seen you talk about these issues in the public domain, especially when it comes to the Jammu region. And this is a government that has repeatedly spoken about the communities historically ignored, the politics of appeasement, ignoring the real causes of people, especially in the Jammu region. Ahead of this crucial visit of the Home Minister, what are the expectations of the people of Jammu that you can highlight?
As far as this recent visit is concerned, I can tell you that this talk about development and infrastructural issues, etc., is something which is very routine in nature. I think the real issues Jammu and Kashmir is fraught up with is, number one, the targeted killings of Hindus and non-Muslims in J&K, which is akin to genocide. And since 1990s, as on date, Hindus of J&K have been demanding that whatever has happened to the Hindus in 1990s in Kashmir as well as in the Muslim majority districts of Jammu province, it should be officially declared as genocide so that tribunals can be set up and justice can be met. Now this Hindu genocide is unabated. Now you have seen the recent targeted killings. It is a continuum. It is a continuous expression of the continuous unabated Hindu genocide in Jammu province.
Yeah.
Now the second issue is after the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A, its abrogation had to be taken to its logical conclusion. Abrogating 370 and 35A was just the necessary first step. After that, ultimately the levers of power had to be shifted from half separatist constituency to the nationalist constituency, which could have been done if census 2021 would have formed basis for the new delimitation exercise. I think the old Nehruvian policy was adopted by this dispensation also, and they decided to conduct delimitation on the basis of fraud and fudge. And this has been the official position of BJP as well, that 2011 census, all the preceding census were fraud and fudge. They decided to conduct delimitation on 2011 fraud, fudge, anti-Jammu, anti-national census and handed over 47 seats to Kashmir and 43 only to Jammu. Had it been on 2021 census, Jammu would have got 50 seats, Kashmir would have got 40 seats. Third, the democratic assault, which is also known as land jihad in Jammu province, which has been unleashed by Pakistan and ISI using democratic institutions of the state of J&K, that is not being talked about. That is the real issue. We acknowledged its legislative expression, the law through which Muslims were settled on state lands in Jammu. Now you will be surprised to know that instead of implementing that judgment, the Roshni judgment, the government filed a review petition and has virtually stalled the implementation of the Roshni judgment, which means that it is facilitating planned land jihad and demographic assault of Jammu province. Yeah. So
Ankur, you've made some very pertinent points. Targeted killings, abrogation had to be taken to a logical conclusion. The census 2021 and how the earlier census has been made a basis, and land jihad, quote unquote, that you're talking about. I want to bring in other guests as well. Mr. Sareen, I'm coming to you. And I'm talking from the larger point of view and the narrative that the government of India talks about of Naya Kashmir. They want to dismantle the earlier political discourse along with the political establishment and create new dynamics that will work towards the development of the Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. All the issues that Ankur raised, and you heard Neeti as well, with the visit of the Home Minister, clearly not the first time. Do you see this going on the right path? Of course, things can't be course corrected in a month or in a year. But do you see this going on the right path, or perhaps they've lost the way?
Look, they haven't really lost the way, but I don't think they actually know which way they want to go. Let me put it that way. So I think they have the right ideas. They know what they want to do, but they don't really know how to get there. And that's the sense I get. You know, it's all very well to talk about all the money which has been allocated for development. But if you visit the state of Jammu and Kashmir, you don't really see, the hype which is being made. You don't see it on the ground. Number one. Number two, I think I personally feel that the security situation is largely under control. Pretty much under control, actually. Yes, there will be these odd incidents, and I don't buy this thing that, the other side is very desperate. They've been desperate for the last 40 years. So forget about it. But I think we've got a very good handle over the security situation. The problem to my mind, however, is that, we haven't really been able to make any real progress on the political side of things. There have been some attempts, some half-hearted, attempts, like there was a party which Apni Party came up. It really hasn't got any traction. Now Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad has thrown his hat in the ring. Let's see whether he gets any traction. The BJP has been trying, but I think it's still getting only traction in the Jammu region. I don't think it has much traction in the valley. And in a sense, there has been a kind of a fragmentation of politics between Jammu and Kashmir region.
Indeed, yeah.
So that is a problem which is going to come up.
Okay.
Then there will be this whole issue of the progressive measures which the government intends to take. Now, of course, politics will be attached to it. There will be all kinds of political motives imputed. But I think, giving reservations to people, to some of the marginalized communities, is something which is the need of the hour. It should have been done many years back. It's being done now, so that's the good thing.
I think I'm going to pick up on from the point of view. Yes, sure. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
One last sentence. I don't think, one visit is going to change anything.
True.
Even a couple of visits. So I think it has to be a very sustained kind of focus on Kashmir to try and smoothen out the rough edges and take the state forward, or the union territory forward. Eventually, it will become a state.
So they've got the right ideas, but they don't know how to get there. That's your criticism. Niti, I know you have a lot to say. And I'll give you the time and opportunity to respond. Before that, Majid, with the visit of the Home Minister, and I agree with Mr. Sareen there, that 1, 2 or 3 visits are not going to change anything. It's a long-term approach, a focused, sustained efforts that need to be taken. But do you agree that what the hype versus the ground reality? Have things changed in Kashmir and Jammu for good, or there is perhaps much more that needs to be done?
Well, madam, उनके देखे से जो आ जाती है मुंह पर रौनक, वो समझते हैं कि बीमार का हाल अच्छा है. Well, firstly, 2 things at least appreciable about Amit Shah ji is that, 1, he managed the abrogation of Article 370 like a bloodless coup, all appreciable. And second, that Kashmir has become hartal mukt. We don't have any further hartals in Kashmir, and that is a very good thing, really appreciable of Honorable Home Minister. But then let's see Kashmir from the perspective of what was promised to Kashmir after the abrogation. It has been 3 years of no democratic elections, no democratic governance, and 3 years of no statehood. Otherwise, Honorable Home Minister himself said in the Parliament that we'll restore statehood once the normalcy returns. But the point here is that we are so much into a scary situation that it's second visit of Honorable Home Minister, and the second time again there is an escalation in terror-related activities, which is not a good sign, especially ahead of such a high-profile visit. It's all the way condemnable. Second point is that the public alienation. My brother from Jammu, my Dogra brother, is on the panel. I couldn't find him anywhere convincing about what BJP has been able to achieve, or even Sushantji was not able to convince me that he is appreciable about what all has been done. The reason is that what was promised and what the stature of Honorable Prime Minister and Home Minister is about, that Honorable Prime Minister says he's the Pradhan Sevak and he says na khaunga na khane dunga. There is so much of public alienation in Jammu and Kashmir, including Jammu, in the last 3 years, and it's essentially because of viceroyship of the bureaucrats and the corruption in administration. Why is Honorable Home Minister unable to tackle that? That is my
let me take these questions. Niti, I'm sure you have a lot to say. Why don't we structure it a little bit? I think you should talk about the fact everybody here on the panel agrees that
Can I also put a question to?
Yes, Mr. Sareen, go ahead. A short question, please.
Just a short question. On the political side of things, for example, a very good measure was taken with the DDC elections, right? But where have you empowered the DDCs? Most of those guys poor chaps are in hiding. Most of them have not been empowered. They are, like Majid was saying, they are virtually being, led by the nose by the bureaucracy. They cannot.
So Niti, I think largely on the panel, everybody agrees that the government has the right ideas. They have taken a bold step on the 5th of August 2019, and there were big promises, hopes, and expectations that was set in. I think everybody somewhere, to an extent, is not happy in the direction in which the progress is happening. Converting those promises on the ground, public alienation, electoral processes, development that needs to be done. On these 3-4 points, if you can put forward your point of view.
Yes. So, like I said earlier, Anusha, it needs to be a continuum where we were to where we are today to where we want to be. There is no magic wand with anybody that is going to change everything. And let me say that by taking an example by what Mr. Sushant Sareen said. Sir, with all due respect, you're saying security to under control hai, lekin zameen par kuch nahi hua hai. So, security apne aap under control nahi hoti hai. There are a lot of things that needed to be done that have been done. And that is why today there is less stone pelting, there is less youth that is being inducted in all of these activities. So that is one part. Somebody did that, and that is why we are where we are. The second thing you said is that the money is coming in, but on ground development nahi dikh rahi hai. Sir, paisa lana bhi in Kashmir for development is a huge task. I hope you'd understand from where we were. Nobody was willing or nobody wanted to get into Kashmir because of the situation that was there. So to get where we are today also needed that effort. And you're saying on ground nahi dikh raha hai. Sir, last year there was a journalist from Kashmir who said this is for the first time that the snow and electricity in Kashmir has happened together for the first time. You think that is not on ground? You think the hospitals that have been built there, the aims that have gone there, the colleges, the schools, the cancer hospital that Amit Shah ji is inaugurating today, you think that is not all on ground? Like I said, there is no magic wand. I understand that the expectations and where Kashmir needs to be is still far away. But to say that none of that has happened today is not right. So the government knows what they want and they're working towards it. You may not like the pace of it, but this is the pace that the normalcy will be retained as well. So we need to take everything into consideration, and the government is doing that.
Why don't you also respond to that criticism that came in from Ankur, that there is no logical conclusion to which the abrogation has been taken, and he also spoke about particularly the targeted killings of the minority, the Hindu community, and there's a term that he uses, land jihad, and the fact that the government went in a review petition against the Roshni judgment. How do you explain that position? Niti, go ahead.
I lost your voice in between, Anusha.
All right, Niti, I'll reiterate my question. I'll reiterate my question. 2 points I want to talk to you to talk about. First is, Ankur said that the abrogation of 370 has not been taken to a logical conclusion, and he particularly spoke about the flawed census that has been used, and secondly, quote-unquote land jihad, the fact that the government went in a review petition against the Roshni judgment, which many say was a bold decision that had come in from the High Court. Niti.
All right. So first of all, talking about the targeted killings, I think that was the first question that you asked me. To say that this was a targeted killings of Hindus, yes, there were a majority of Hindus that were killed, but there were also people from different communities. So if we don't make this Hindu-Muslim and make this terrorists versus India, or if we make this Pakistan versus India.
That is a lie which Pakistan also peddles, that this is not a Hindu-Muslim issue. Also have been killed. Muslims have because they practice Islam. Hindus have killed
who will kill anybody who speaks for India. They have an anti-India mindset, which is what they will use against us, and that is what they're against. They don't want development to happen there. They want people to stay where they were. Obviously, they would have a problem with whatever is happening, the development, and I don't know what you're expecting.
Niti, catch a breath. I'll quickly take in a word from Ankur. Catch a breath, take a sip of water. Ankur, your argument largely is that if this is a problem which is happening, or a kind of a discrimination which is happening towards the Hindu community, and this is a government which has never shied away from its majoritarian identity or a Hindu identity, why do you think that the BJP will not own up to this kind of a problem? I mean, perhaps one expects that this party is going to be very, very vocal about these issues. Ankur.
Yes, so let's talk about facts now. The state of India is still in denial about the occurrence of Hindu genocide. Now the experts on genocide say that denial is the climax of genocide. Denial of genocide is double genocide, and denial of genocide ensures that the genocide goes unabated. That is the situation in J&K. The government of India as on date refuses to officially recognize it as a genocide despite being a signatory to the UN Convention. And this talk about Muslims have also been killed. Muslims are not being killed for practicing Islam. Please understand. This is a jihadi warfare. Hindus are being targeted and attacked and killed.
Let me check if Niti is back with us on the broadcast, because Ankur, I want an answer to all these questions. Niti, I hope your throat is better. What I want to understand from you, Ankur is basically saying that if there are targeted killings happening of Hindus in the valley, in Jammu and Kashmir, call it a genocide, recognize the problem so that we can set up tribunals and address the issue? Has the government shied away from it?
The government has not shied away from it. When the genocide happened, I think the BJP has agreed and has approved of everything that had happened. But in today's scenario, if we just stick to that and not look at the larger picture, where it is the idea of India, the idea of development that is being attacked by these people, who is it going to benefit?
Okay.
I think unless and until we change our mindset to this is an anti-India attack and not just about a community, I think we're missing the larger picture there.
Okay, I have last 1 minute. I'm going to take it to Mr. Sushant Sareen and Mr. Hydari. 30 seconds to you, Ankur, and then I have to bring in other people as well.
Yes. So I can tell you another dimension which has not been taken care of. The institutions of radicalization and indoctrination are flourishing in J&K. We have been demanding ban on Ahle Hadith, which is the mother organization of Lashkar-e-Taiba. Government of India is in continuous denial of this thing that we are going to ban.
Let me bring in Mr. Sareen. Mr. Sareen, if there is an advice or a piece of advice that you'd want to give to the government of India in terms of the direction in which things are going, what would you tell them?
I think my piece of advice would be that keep the security situation as tight as it is. There's always room for improvement, but more importantly, get the politics right. And I think the politics is where the government seems to be floundering a little bit. If they get this right, I think we'll be on the right path. Now, everything else, this land jihad. Why don't the people of Jammu go to Kashmir and buy land? Who has stopped them from buying land? They don't want to go out there. The constant cribbing which happens. Now, okay, fine. Genocide happened.
I am very sorry to interrupt this discussion. I thank you all, Neeti Jain, Sushant Sareen, Majid Hydari and Ankush Sharma. Thank you all for joining us on the show. Completely out of time, but we look forward to the visit of the Home Minister in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. All eyes on that crucial visit. With that, it's a wrap. Shivani takes it forward.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. The National Herald case has come back to haunt the Congress party, with Karnataka State President D.K. Shivkumar and his brother being summoned in relation with this case for October 7. The Enforcement Directorate wants to understand the source of the donations given to young Indian by D.K. Shivkumar and his brother. Ironically, these summons have come at a time when Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra is in Adi Chun Chanangiri Man, which is the power center of the Vokaliga community, the same politically important community Shivkumar comes from. Also, Congress interim President Sonia Gandhi is in the state and will be joining the Yatra on October 6, just a day before DKS is supposed to appear before the ED. As expected, the Congress and DK Shivkumar see red over the summons and its timing. He has decided to skip the summons. He has even dared the agency to do what they can if they don't give him a later date. Is the link between an ongoing probe and a political yatra strenuous at best? We will take those questions to our guests in just a bit, but first let's take a look at the summons that have been issued to Shivkumar and his brother. What are they all about? So the ED is all set to quiz him if he appears. He and his brother DK Suresh on October 7. The two Congress leaders are set to be questioned over 25 lakh rupees given to Young Indian, the company under investigation in relation to the National Herald case. Around 15 people who donated to YIL have all been summoned by the ED. They're trying to track the source of the money for their donation, and that will be the case with DKS's money as well. So all the donatees will be asked to provide the money trail. Where did that money come from? So first of all, DK Shivkumar is not alone. On top of that, DK Shivkumar is not new to probes, is he? He's been consistently investigated and summoned since 2018, even jailed in cases connected to corruption. In May 2022, ED had filed a charge sheet in the 2018 money laundering case against him. This case was filed after IT searched DK Shivkumar's premises for tax evasion. DK was alleged of Hawala transactions and was even arrested by the ED. And that case also led to other probes against the Karnataka Congress chief. In September 2022, just the month gone by, CBI launched the probe into disproportionate assets case against him. Now, the Congress has been claiming that the investigations and summons against this top Karnataka leader are with an eye to disturb the party during the Bharat Jodo Yatra and especially the Karnataka line. Is there a link? Well, here is how things have transpired over the last few weeks. So September 7 is when the Bharat Jodo Yatra began. It is of course a showpiece yatra and movement of the Congress party. Barely a week later, on September 15, DK Shivkumar is summoned by ED for September 19 in a new money laundering case, details of which are not quite yet out in the open. On September 19, DK Shivkumar was very much in the capital and he was interrogated by the ED as well. Now cut to September 30. Nearly a month later, that's when Bharat Jodo Yatra of the Congress party entered Karnataka. 2 days before that, on September 28, CBI officials surveyed his properties in a disproportionate assets case. And finally, on October 2, just the day gone by, ED summoned DK Shivkumar in the YIL case on October 7. But as I said, Karnataka leader has been under probe for a while. Would it be fair to say that the heat is piling on him only now? Even as Congress and BJP are at loggerheads on the summons to their leader, there is another row raging between the two. Amidst the Congress Yatra, BJP attacked the party over Rahul Gandhi's picture on the Karnataka state flag. The BJP claimed that Rahul and Congress have insulted the state, while pro-Kannada organizations have also expressed their anger. Congress leaders hit back saying that this is a silly issue being raised only because elections are around the corner and because BJP has nothing to show for its stint in power. Our top debate, though, coming up, focusing on the Congress charge of vindictive politics and misuse of agencies. We've all heard that before. But can a link be made between ongoing probes, National Herald is not new, and a yatra or by a political party? Here's more of what Congress leaders have said, and then we debate.
ಮಠ ಅಂದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಠ, ನಮ್ಮ ಸಮಾಜದ ಮಠ. ರಾಹುಲ್ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಅವರು ಒಂದು ರಾತ್ರಿ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಬೇರೆ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ನಾನು ವಾಪಸ್ ಬರೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಅದೇ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಏನು ಸೂರ್ಯ ಮುಳುಗೋ ಬಿದೋಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಕೆಳಗಡೆಗೆ ಸೂರ್ಯ ಚಂದ್ರ ಬಿದೋಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಟೈಮ್ ಕೇಳ್ತೀರಿ, ಅವ್ರು ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು.
It's not surprising. The politics of vendetta continues, and every effort will be made by the Modi government, by the Bombay government, which is a puppet government, to derail and disrupt the Bharat Jodo Yatra.